man. Man must stand up like man. Man must act like man. Man must behave like man. Man must take decision like man. Eh? You weak jellyback. Oh, Jesus have mercy. Me not deal with jellyback man. Me love man. We are man. We stand up like man. We talk like man. We act like man. We behave like man. Man a man. Elders get up. Stand up like man. Lord Jesus have mercy. Somebody had trouble me this morning. Every man in the house, stand up. Stand up, men.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for stopping by, keeping me company as usual. If you're here with me for the first time, welcome, welcome. Please remember to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, as well as share and leave your comments in the comments section. To my subscribers, welcome back. Always nice to have you. And you know the ropes, right? You're going to go ahead right now and give the video a thumbs up. Give the video a thumbs up, please. And then share and return so that we can get on with matters today. And I want to thank you all for doing so. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. So now that you're back with me, let's get down to business. So what do I have for you today? Well, I have an interesting clip here from Cliff Hughes. He's going to be telling us what his views are on the Waycliffe development matter. And after that, I will be speaking on a matter which was raised by him concerning the Integrity Commission. You remember last year, February, when they had submitted to Parliament for tabling the report that Andrew Holness was involved in some kind of conflict of interest, and they had recommended, the Director of Investigation had recommended that he should be prosecuted for it. You remember that? Well, my peeps, I did a little investigation. When them said so, I went and looked back. And I am telling you, I got a bombshell for you. One hell of a bombshell. I don't know how we never noticed it. Maybe them noticed it. Maybe we weren't paying as much attention as we should. But how that fly past we, I don't know. But I tell you what, let we listen to Cliff Hughes and what he has to say, and then we will come back. All right? Agreed? Great. All right, so let's listen to him now, and we will return shortly.
The other thing, I wasn't here yesterday. The latest salvo from the Integrity Commission. The report came to us on Tuesday evening while we were coming on air, and we read the critical parts of it. I've since gone through it and read it. And you know, we have said it before and we'll have to say it again. The Integrity Commission, as of this moment, has effectively provoked polarizing views and attitudes in the country. Half of the population convinced that it has become biased and political in its work. That it is no longer an impartial body that enjoys the trust and confidence of the people of Jamaica, while another half of the population is of the opposite view. And that was not so. That was not so. For when it was the Contractor General's office and then it became the Integrity Commission. That was not so. I think it enjoyed wide respect. It no longer does. And I recall back in February 2023, when it made that monumental mistake, and I use the word deliberately, mistake at the time, of tabling that report about Prime Minister Holness being in a conflict of interest. And the tweet by its executive director, Greg Christie, fueled the perception at the time that the Prime Minister was going to be facing imminent charges, only for it to be known a day or two later that that was not so. And Christie tweeted that tweet knowing, yes, that wasn't the case. That, and then the shooting incident of one of its directors, Mr. Evans, when its executive director again, when asked to comment, said, go ask the government. Those two incidents in particular have fueled the perception that it is out to get Andrew Holness. Whether fairly or not, that is the perception that they're out to get him. When I read this morning again the report, the latest report, they got a report that the Prime Minister's company, and it turns out not to be, was building on land owned by the Prime Minister. That is not so. They got that report lodged to them on the 10th of July this year, 2024. And they acted immediately the following day, July 11, with an unannounced visit to the development in Beverly Hills. So they got the report on the 10th of July, and they moved with lightning speed the following day to visit the property and commence their investigation. And they were able to complete the investigation in 5 months. Why? In an organization where, by their own admission, they have not been able to do half of the work they're supposed to be doing. And I say that because when you occupy such positions like the Integrity Commission, it is important that you conduct yourself in a way that is seen to be fair and judicious. It can't be seen that you are out to get whoever it is, whether he is it's more important and of more moment because he's a Prime Minister. And that's where the Commission finds itself this morning. And I've had reason to say it in February 2023 with how they handled that report. Subsequently, and now it is a pattern. Are they out to get Holness? Are they? And where does this? Because the mandate of the Integrity Commission cannot be questioned. It is needed. But this commission, as it is this morning, is no longer the Integrity Commission in the eyes of the public and too many people. It's a no Integrity Commission, as one man said to me yesterday. It's no longer the IC, it's the NIC, the No Integrity Commission. And I don't know how we're going to fix it, because the country is so polarized and deeply divided on the brink of a general election. And there are those who are sworn that they're going to take him down, take down Holness, no matter what. That is a political mission. And the view is they are being aided and abetted by the Integrity Commission. We are in a crisis. So crucial a body is concerned. I take no comfort in saying so. None whatsoever. Time for the break.
So I think it would be a good idea for us to take a look at that February 16, 2023 kerfuffle, mistake, as Cliff Hughes call it, right? Now, it was an investigation into the allegations of a conflict of interest in the awarding of government contracts by the Ministry of Education when Holness was Minister of Education, right? So here is the Gleaner's headline: No charges against Holness, rules Director of Corruption Prosecution. Let's see when that was. As you can see by the date, it was published Thursday, February 16, 2023 at 6:11 p.m. And this was published in the Gleaner. All right. So let me make a note of the time, 6:11 p.m. Great. Let's move on. So the Gleaner reported that Keisha Prince Kamika, the Director of Corruption Prosecution at the Integrity Commission, has ruled that no charges will be preferred against Prime Minister Andrew Holness. The Gleaner went on to say the recommendation was made in a 107-page report which contains details of an investigation into the award of government contracts to Westcon Construction Limited between 2006 to 2009. 2006, you recall that was the PNP was still in power. So what they're saying is that some contracts were awarded to Westcon Construction Limited in 2006 when the PNP was still in power, and then again between the period 2007 to 2009. That would have been when the Labour Party was in power. So what is saying here that Westcon Construction Limited actually did business under the PNP administration and the JLP administration. So they were doing business across both administrations. But let's read on. However, Prince Kamika, in a ruling dated February 13, 2023, so let me pause here to correct this inaccuracy. No, her report was actually dated the 12th of January 2023. Make note of the dates though, make note. And you want to make note of this date as well. Somebody seemed to have fed the Gleaner a lie. Okay, well, let us continue. So she said, in relation to conflict of interest allegations against Holness, and they're quoting her now, with additional material being made available, which investigations have failed to contradict or provide more evidence in support of the offenses contemplated, no criminal charges can be laid. So what is she saying? Evidently, after the matter was handed over to her, more information was provided. And based on the evidence that was before her, she's saying that it was not enough to support the prosecution, and therefore she's not going to win, so it don't make no sense, and therefore no criminal charges can be laid. That's the long and short of it. So that was the Gleaner reporting. So let us now turn to the report itself. It's the investigation report, which it says conducted into the circumstances surrounding the award of Government of Jamaica contracts to Westcon Construction Limited during the period 2006 to 2009. Let's see now. So let's look at the summary of investigation. It should tell us what it's about. This investigation by the Director of Investigation concerns the allegations that contracts were awarded to the entity Westcon Construction and that there is a connection and or relationship between the proprietors of the named entity and the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, and then Minister of Education, Youth and Information. The investigation commenced under the Office of the Contractor General pursuant to Section 4.1 of the Contractor General Act and the provisions and requirements of the Government of Jamaica Public Sector Procurement Handbooks 2001 and 2008. It went on to say the investigation sought to ascertain, inter alia, among other things, A, the nature and particulars of Government of Jamaica contracts that were awarded to Westcon Construction Limited during the relevant period, which is 2006 to 2009, right? B, the nature and extent of the relationship between the Most Honorable Andrew Holness and the directors or principals of Westcon Construction Limited. C, the extent of the involvement, if any, of the Most Honorable Andrew Holness in the award of Government of Jamaica contracts to Westcon Construction Limited. D, whether the circumstances surrounding the award of contracts and or the processes utilized by 1, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, 2, the National Works Agency, 3, the Social Development Commission, was devoid of irregularity and impropriety and was fair and transparent. So that is what them said them looking into. They want to make sure, say, the process that was followed was fair and transparent. So he went on to say the findings of the investigation are premised primarily upon an analysis of the statements and documentary evidence which were provided by the respondents, who were requisitioned by the Office of the Contractor General during the course of the investigation. So now we come to the summary of key findings. Now, in the contracts awarded by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information to Westcon Construction Limited, it says here a total of 10 contracts were awarded by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information to Westcon Construction Limited during the period February 2007 and November 2009. Now remember, the Jamaica Labour Party did not come to office until September 3 of 2007. So therefore, again, the period that they are investigating to do with the awarding of contract of the Ministry of Education crosses over from one administration to the next. Right? Good. Now it says, of the 10 contracts, only 5 were reported to the Office of the Contractor General by way of the Ministry of Education quarterly contract award reports for the period. He then said, the direct contracting procurement methodology was utilized in one instance, and it was disclosed by Ministry of Education that the criteria for the lowest responsive tender was utilized in the remaining 9 instances. Now, he failed to tell us when that took place, but he went on to say that the 10 contracts awarded by the Ministry of Education were between the contract values of 1.4 million and 3.3 million and had a cumulative value of 21.8 million. It was disclosed by the Ministry of Education that the specifications to be met by bidders in respect of the contracts which were awarded by the ministry was the submission of a valid tax compliance certificate and National Contracts Commission certificate in the required category. Then they went on to speak about some contracts that were awarded to the National Works Agency to the same Westcon construction. Now the question is, how much was awarded? According to them, there were 34 contracts awarded during the period July 16, 2009 to June 6, 2016. Again, The Labour Party was in power in 2009, and by June 2016, they were back in power. So they were awarded contracts, 34 contracts between that period, which means that it went all the way through the PNP's period between 2011 and 2016. Okay, so again, this is just a company that's been doing business with government. No matter which party in power, they get contract, right? And it says now of the 34 contracts awarded by the NWA to Westcon Construction Limited, 26 fell within the value threshold, which required the NWA to submit particulars of the contracts to the then Contractor General by way of its QCA reports. The Director of Investigation went on to say, importantly, of the 26 contracts, only 6 were reported to the Office of the Contractor General by way of the NWA QCA reports for the period. So the NWA apparently was in breach as well. So let me just read this briefly. Mr. Everton Hunter, Chief Executive Officer of the NWA National Works Agency, advised the Office of the Contractor General that, and they're quoting him, there are no records to indicate the method of procurement that was utilized for the award of the reference contracts. Further, the procurement records do not show where any of the referenced awards listed were before the committee for approval. So here it is that they're saying at the NWA that them don't have a record that any of the contracts went before the committee for approval, and they have no record as to how the procurement was carried out in the first place. Right? That's the National Works Agency. And is the National Works Agency a part of the Ministry of Education? No. Then they went on to say that the 34 contracts which were awarded by the NWA to Westcon Construction Limited were between the contract values of $60,000 and $11.9 million and had a cumulative value of $33.7 million. That's the total value of the 34 contracts, right? He also went on to say that, this is Everton Hunter, that no records were found that outline the selection process that was undertaken for the award of these contracts. So that is the NWA, an executive agency not associated with Andrew Holness or the Ministry of Education when he was there. And the Contractor General found issues with the way in which they were awarding contracts to the same company. And that's the National Works Agency, which is an executive agency. All right, good. So when it came time now to pay them for the works done, let's see what they said happened. Of the 34 payment records which were reviewed, the certification that, and the quoting, goods or services were satisfactorily provided and that the rates or prices were fair and reasonable and that the relevant financial instructions have been followed, was noted in 31 instances. Can you imagine? There was no competitive bidding, yet they can say that the price was fair and reasonable. Anyhow, let us continue. So we're going to move quickly to the Social Development Commission and the award of contracts to them, Westcon Construction Limited. Listen to this. A total of 2 contracts. How much, my peeps? 2 contracts were awarded by the Social Development Commission to Westcon Construction Limited during the period December 20, 2007 and September 10, 2009. That is definitely now when the Labour Party was in office and Andrew Holness was the Minister of Education. But let's see what this is about. It says here, both contracts were reported to the Office of the Contractor General by way of the SDC's QCA submission, where it was indicated that the limited tender procurement methodology was utilized for the award of contract in the amount of $375,000 and the sole source procurement methodology for the award of contract in the amount of 1.45 million. So, you notice something different with this particular transaction. Two contracts, SDC, there was a limited tender procurement. Both contracts were reported to the Office of the Contractor General, so no problem there so either. And when it came to the 1.4 million, they knew the methodology of procurement that was done, and that was the sole source procurement methodology. Unlike the NWA, that couldn't show anything at all about it. Contracts were just given out and to this company, and that was that. In the case of these two contracts, it seemed as if the awarding of these contracts followed the rules. But let us see what happened. Notwithstanding the aforementioned disclosures concerning the procurement methodologies, which were utilized by the SDC by way of the QCA reports for the period, it was subsequently disclosed by Dr. Dwayne Vernon, Executive Director, SDC, that, and I'm quoting him, there is no evidence of the SDC utilizing formal tender procedures for the procurement for the works and services executed by Westcon Construction Limited. When he said there was no evidence of any formal tender procedure, is he implying that there was some kind of informal tender procedure? In other words, they used some other technique for selecting the contractor? I don't know. But he said there was no evidence that a formal tender process was followed. He then went on to say, the Office of the Contractor General was also advised by Dr. Vernon that the records indicated that, and I'm quoting him, Westcon Construction was introduced to the SDC by way of letter from the MP. Also, the Office of the Contractor General was advised by Dr. Vernon that, and I'm quoting him again, there is no evidence available to the SDC detailing how Westcon Construction was selected to provide services, as SDC did not procure such services. This was done at the level of the constituency. So it was at the constituency level that all of these arrangements were made. That seems to be what they are saying. So now we come to the big question. Who owns Westcon Construction Limited? They are saying the entity Westcon Construction Limited was incorporated on October 11, 2004 and was registered by the company's Office of Jamaica with the following directors and shareholders. The first one, Robert Garvin, a director and shareholder, and then Donovan Simpson, director and shareholder, as well as Jerome Green, who is the company secretary. So those two persons now, Garvin and Simpson, evidently were pals of Andrew Holness. So, having gone and recommended them to the SDC to do some work in his constituency, the Office of the Contractor General now flagged them. And so, oh, you've given work to your pal. So let's turn our attention now to what the Director of Investigation said should be done about this. We're going to go now to his recommendations. And for that, we must turn our attention to 6.15. Want you to listen carefully. The matter concerning the potential conflict of interest. Hear that? Not conflict of interest, but the potential for conflict of interest. In other words, he found no evidence of conflict of interest. That's what potential conflict of interest means. Anyway, he went on to say, which arose in relation to the recommendation which was made by the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, is being referred to the Director of Corruption Prosecution for consideration. Hear that? For consideration with respect to breaches of the Contractor General Act, the Public Sector Procurement Regulations 2008, the Corruption Prevention Act, and any other applicable law. Now, there is something very strange. First of all, he started by saying he's concerned about the matters concerning potential for conflict of interest, right? And then he went on to say that he is referring the matter to the Director of Corruption Prosecution for consideration. But what is she to consider? According to him, with respect to breaches of the Contractor General Act. But he never said what section. How can he say that the man breached an act when he did not mention what section of the act that he breached? That makes sense? Then he went to refer to the Public Sector Procurement Regulations 2008. And again, he did not say where in the act or what section of the act was breached. He never said what section of the Act of the Corruption Prevention Act was breached either. But yet he want the prosecutor to consider the breaches, and she figure look and find them now. What was he referring the matter to the corruption prosecution to do when he has not identified in his investigation what it was that the man breached? So now that we know that he did not, he didn't recommend him to be charged. He did not recommend a charge. He recommended for her to go and consider whether or not he breached these acts without saying what he's talking about, which part of the act he's talking about. So let us now see what happened thereafter. So when was this report dated? October 4, 2022, right? And it took 3 months before it was tabled in the Parliament, January 12, 2023. Now, what caused the delay? I would say it was because of the Director of Corruption Prosecution. She may have taken a little while to compile her rulings because there were several agencies and persons who were being considered for prosecution from the investigation, and her ruling was submitted January 12, 2023. So let's take a brief look at the background before we move on. It says, this chapter outlines the background information concerning the investigation. So the investigation was initiated how? On June 9, 2016. So on June 9, 2016, the Office of the Contractor General, acting on behalf of the Contractor General and pursuant to the provisions which are contained in Section 15(1) and 16 of the then applicable Contractor General Act, initiated an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the award of Government of Jamaica contracts to Westcon Construction Limited during the period 2006 to 2009. Here they repeat it again. He went on to say the Office of the Contractor General's decision to commence a formal investigation was prompted by allegations and representations which were made in the media concerning the award of contracts to the entity Westcon Construction Limited. The specific media report which triggered the Office of Contractor General's investigation was a broadcast of an episode of the television program 18 Degrees North, which aired on Television Jamaica on Monday, May 30, 2016 at 8:30 p.m. The broadcast, which was hosted by Ms. Zara Burton, made allegations concerning A, the award of contracts to the entity Westcon Construction, and B, the connection and relationship between the proprietors of the named entity and the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, and then Minister of Education, Youth and Information. So that's the background. Great. So the Director of Investigation, having completed his investigations on October 4, 2022, would have sent his report to Greg Christie, the Executive Director, who would then pass it on to the Commission. So the Commission would have had it sometime soon after it was written, right? In October, at least from 2022. That's when they would have had it. And he would have requested the Commission to refer the matter to the Director of Corruption Prosecution for Andrew Holness and a few other persons that he felt that was in breach at various stages of the process. with this particular company. We can come to the conclusion that the Commission would have had a copy of this report in October of 2022. Let's see what happened next. And what happened next was nothing short of social drama and confusion. Yes, because as you can see, the report was tabled on the 15th of February 2023, conducted into the circumstances surrounding the award of Government of Jamaica contracts to Westcon Constructions Limited during the period 2006 to 2009. When that broke, all hell went loose when it was tabled, and this report now was uploaded to the Integrity Commission's website. That's when everyone knew that Andrew Holness was referred to the Director of Corruption Prosecution, and all hell broke loose. This report was sent to the Parliament, but what did not accompany the report was the ruling of the Director of Corruption Prosecution. So, for at least a day or two, everybody thought that Andrew was in trouble. Yeah, man, he did not trouble bad. All sorts of people calling for his resignation and shock and shame that him bring on the country and all in kind of something, including the opposition, of course. And then all of that blew up when the prosecutor's report of her ruling came in, where she recommended that she cannot go forward with a prosecution because she does not have the evidence to win the case, is the long and short of what she was saying. Then now was a backlash that Christie had to wiggle him way through, right? And I'm going to bring you a bombshell of no mean order. When I was looking into it this morning, I could not believe my eyes. And how it missed us, I don't know. But let me bring it to your attention now. Now, the evidence of what went down and why it went down was provided by Greg Christie himself. Now, my peeps, this is a letter that was dated February 16, 2023, which was sent to the Parliament, addressed to Marissa Dalrymple, the Speaker, and Tom Tavares Finso, who was the President of the Senate. And it came from Greg Christie. Please make a note of that date, February 16, very important. And we're going to read now what this letter said, because it contained crucial information, crucial pieces of information as to what went down. So Greg Christie said, "Dear Honorable Speaker and Honorable President," he went on to tell us what this letter is about. It says, ruling. This is a ruling now. This will be coming from the prosecutor, the Director of Corruption Prosecution. And it says, ruling of the Integrity Commission's Director of Corruption Prosecution regarding the special report of investigation conducted into circumstances surrounding the award of Government of Jamaica contracts to Westcon Construction Limited during the period 2006 to 2009. So this is to do now with the report that was sent to Parliament. We can call it, what are we going to call it now? The Andrew Holness matter? Yes? Let's call it the Westcon matter. Great. So we're talking about the Westcon investigation now, right? So good. Let's read what he said in the body of it. I have the good honor and privilege to write to you in relation to the above captioned matter and further to our letter to you dated Monday, January 12, 2023, make a note, under the cover of which the captioned investigation report was conveyed to you at the direction of the Commission for tabling in the House of Parliament. You hear that? So he's referring now to the investigation that was done in Westcon, right? And he's saying that it was submitted to Parliament Monday, January 12, 2023, for tabling, right? He went on to say, the report was subsequently tabled in the House of Representatives on Tuesday, February 14, 2023. You hear that? So it went to Parliament on the 12th, then realized that the Prime Minister and him in a trouble, and them delay, right? And then finally they tabled it on February 14, 2023, fully a month and 2 days after. Listen to this. Following the Commission's review of the ruling that was made by the Commission's Director of Corruption Prosecution, Mrs. Keisha Prince Kamika, dated, and this now is the date of her ruling, dated January 12, 2023. So her ruling was dated January 12, 2023. And the Commission sent the report that they had from October of 2022. They sent that to the Parliament January 12, 2023. And that was the same day that they received the ruling. What they did not do was to send the ruling and the investigation report to the Parliament on Monday the 12th. No, they held on to the ruling and sent the report forward to be submitted and tabled in Parliament, right? They held on to the ruling. They did not submit it the Tuesday nor the Wednesday. They did not submit it January 16, January 18, January 20. They had all the time in the world, you know. They did not submit it January 24. They did not submit it January 28. They did not submit it January 31. Then you end up in February, and them still never submitted the 1st of February. They did not submit it the 5th of February. When did they submit it? Let us read on. Greg Christie went on to say that the Commission's review of the ruling of the prosecutor, which was dated January 12, 2023, regarding the matters in the investigation report, which then they sent already in January, that were referred to her for the consideration, and could not say prosecution because a consideration himself. So it was referred to her for her consideration. The Commission, through its chairman, the Honorable Justice Seymour Panton, directed yesterday, Wednesday, February 15, 2023, that the ruling should now be submitted to you for tabling in the Houses of Parliament. Wanna catch it yet, my peeps? You realize what me just said a while ago, my peeps? Let me read it again and skip out the extraneous matters. Right? After they sent in the report, the investigation report, January, the same day they sent it in, they had in their possession the ruling of the prosecutor, which was dated the same day. They never sent it to the Parliament until after the report was tabled. When it was tabled on the 14th, Greg Christie is telling us that Seymour Panton, the chairman, directed him, right, on Wednesday the 15th, the day after, that the ruling should now be submitted, right? That the ruling should now be submitted to you for tabling in Parliament. So what is it saying? It is saying that they never forget to send it to the Parliament. They deliberately held on to it. And based upon what this is saying, Greg Christie is almost implying that he would have sent it to the Parliament, except that it was Panton that told him not to send it. And then him get the direction from him now. He must direct it too. Must have been in writing, telling him now that he must submit it. that the ruling should now be submitted. What else could that mean? The ruling should now be submitted because he didn't tell him enough to submit it. Then Christie went on to say, in keeping with the directive of the chairman of the commission, I now hereby do so. Him not get that no fall. Him one. Justice Panton, who's supposed to be a man of integrity, and if you tell him say him not no integrity, him draft him lawyer. If you said it, if you criticize the commission and talk about them ruling, him draft him lawyer. Them the man when you say they quick for draft a lawyer, you know, enough you ask. Right? Justice Panton had the two reports, and based upon what Christie is saying here, right? If he directed him and tell him that he can, that the ruling should be submitted now, then it must have been he who told him not to submit in the first place. That seems to be what Christie is saying. But listen to this part, my peeps. Christie said that he got the directive from Panton on Wednesday, right? Yesterday, you know. So that means to say this was submitted the day after, on the 16th. Look at what the one great Christie him do. Look at what he did. Reuters is one of them international media houses, you know, all about the place, right? Reuters. And Reuters said, Jamaica Prime Minister facing anti-corruption scrutiny. He went and he retweeted that, right? When did he do it though? Let us check. One thing with Twitter, you know, my peeps, which is why Integrity Commission like to use it and many other agencies when they want to give you information, is that it uses timestamp. Not only do you see the day, the month, and the year, but you see the time. It was the 14th that it was tabled in the House. It was on the 15th when it was uploaded to the Integrity Commission's website. It was on the 15th that Seymour Panton instructed Greg Christie to now send the ruling to the Parliament for tabling. On the 15th, he said, right, that he got the instruction from Seymour Panton that he should send the ruling now to the Parliament to be tabled. Send the ruling now to Parliament to be tabled. Look at the time. 10:30 p.m. on the 15th, the Wednesday the 15th, 2023, after he got instruction from Panton to table it. The man are tweeting at the night. Where am I tweeting at the night, sir? Make we read it. A retweet of a story which said Jamaica Prime Minister facing anti-corruption scrutiny. The man did this in the night, and Seymour Panton is going to take Jesus off of the cross, come tell we in the Parliament before the Oversight Committee that him don't have a malicious bone in his body, and him certain that the other commissioners don't have any malicious bone in their body either. Words to that effect. Him can't swear for what in the other people and body, him know them. Greg Christie was given the go-ahead to table the ruling now, the Wednesday. This is the report that exonerated the man that says that she found nothing, she has no evidence on which to proceed, and therefore she cannot go ahead and prosecute him for corruption. That's what it said, which would have exonerated him and very possibly make them look bad. Had they tabled the two together, and people would be able to now read what the investigator found and what the prosecutor said, why it is she cannot proceed with the prosecution because she don't have no evidence. This man in the night taking last lick and retweet a story talking about the Prime Minister of Jamaica facing anti-corruption scrutiny. This man should be charged for treason. Treason. Because he's damaging the reputation of the country. The ruling cleared the man and he knew it. And he gone and talk about, say, the Prime Minister is facing anti-corruption scrutiny. And this is a man of integrity? I'm not joking. And then you come and talk about saying I resign. That even make it worse. And them allow you. Them actually sit down and allow you, you know. The jellyback man, them in the parliament. Make a play it. Come on, your pastor. Come make them a man, you know what kind of man we like.
Man a man. Man must stand up like man. Man must act like man. Man must behave like man. Man must take decision like man. You weak jellyback. Oh, Jesus, have mercy.
Jellyback man. Sit down and allow him to stay in the position. Sit down and allow Seymour Panton to stay in the position when you don't have the laws which was intended to protect the organization from corruption, corrupt use and abuse. They're going to send this go give Master Andrew for me. I send it go give Warmington too. My peeps, you're looking at Section 15 of the Integrity Commission Act. And this is what it says in the margin. Termination of appointment of appointed commissioner. Remember now, you have a permanent commissioner, which is the Auditor General. So she can't move. But the other four, the two judges, the accountant, and one high public servant, former public servant, right? Them four there, it is referring to. Let me read this for you now, my peeps. Section 15.1 says, the Governor General may, in accordance with the provisions of this section, terminate the appointment of an appointed commissioner for the inability of the appointed commissioner to discharge the functions of his office, whether arising from infirmity of body or mind, dereliction of duty, misbehavior, for any other circumstances arising under Section 9 or any other cause, that open it up to any other cause. Very little limitations. It went on to say, at 2, subsection 2, if the Governor General decides that the question of termination of the appointment of an appointed commissioner ought to be investigated, then A, the Governor General, acting after consultation with the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, shall appoint a tribunal which shall consist of a chairman and not less than 2 other members from among persons who hold or have held office as a judge of a court having unlimited jurisdiction in civil and criminal matters in the Commonwealth. Right? What does it mean by a court of unlimited jurisdiction? You're talking about the Supreme Court and higher. Right? And them can come from Jamaica or anywhere else in the Commonwealth if we don't feel that we should use our judges here. And I would not recommend that we use any judge from Jamaica because two somebody will sit down upon the commission. And the man who I think should be hauled up before the Governor General with a view to have him dismissed. He's a judge. So it would not be wise to use a judge in Jamaica. Let me see what else it says. And the tribunal shall inquire into the matter and report on the facts thereof to the Governor General and advise the Governor General as to whether the appointment of the appointed commissioner ought to be terminated in accordance with subsection 1. That is what UNO should have done. How the hell UNO can expect that kind of action where they deliberately set out to sully the man's reputation and sully the country's reputation. For what reason, we don't know. But clearly them have their own reasons. They just have not shared it with us. You get the report. You have the ruling. You send the report to Parliament. The Parliament will take its time to table it. But you watch them because you're not sending that ruling. You wanted them to table it first, have a day's delay, and then you submit. What could possibly be the reason for doing that, Seymour Panton? Except that you want the results that occurred. People demanding that him should resign. And then after the ruling comes, nobody now go believe the ruling. They must say him thief and him corrupt. Thief and him corrupt and him for go on. That is what happened, Seymour. And as an experienced man of the world and a judge, that must have been what you expected. And if that is what you expected would happen, then it must have been that is what you wanted to happen. So you had the desired effect. But just in case you want to effect that you're stupid and all this was not done by design, then it doesn't matter. It's incompetence. You're incompetent. Which is worse? You being competent or you being corrupt? Which you prefer? Because if you use your office in a way for which it was not intended, for gain, for personal gain, whether it's personal satisfaction or whatever else, that's corruption. The way how I see it, Seymour Panton, Justice Panton, the way how I see it, the members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, from top to bottom, have more integrity than the whole damn lot of you in the Integrity Commission. Anyway, my peeps, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving your comments in the comments section. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and walk good.
Man a man. Man must stand up like man. Man must act like man. Man must behave like man. Man must take decision like man. You weak jellyback. Oh, Jesus have mercy. Me not deal with jellyback man. Me love man. We a man. We stand up